This is Vivica Williams, and you're watching Head to Head. Occupied Crimea is suffering a severe drought, news largely overlooked by the Russian state media. At the beginning of this summer, the self-proclaimed authorities of Crimea even announced a state of emergency in several regions. And this is not the only ecological issue the occupied peninsula and its residents are facing. To talk more about this, we are joined in the studio today by Borys Babin. He is the permanent representative of the President of Ukraine in Crimea. Hello, and thank you for joining us today.
And thank you for attention to Crimean issues.
Well, and tell us, and we always do try to focus a lot on what's going on in Crimea. And I think there's not a lot of, or enough conversation about the ecological issue. So we talked about the severe water crisis, but what are some of the other major ecological issues in occupied Crimea?
Well, all ecological problems of occupied Crimea are connected with Russian illegal policy on the peninsula, including its militarization. As we do know, all major projects of Russia in Crimea, including Kerch Bridge, Tavrida Highway, and two huge power station in Sevastopol and Saki, they have the main goal to make ground for Russian military bases on peninsula, and developing such economic projects, Russians violate ecological rules established by the international society, and of course they do violate the legislation of Ukrainian area of protection of environment. Regarding to our analysis, the most dangerous impact on the Crimean environment, including Russian illegal activities, is destroying of trees while building Tavrida Highway, is destroying the ecology of Kerch Strait by building Kerch Bridge, changing the waves of water in this area, destroying mammals of sea and other kind of life in sea during this building, and of course illegal excavating of natural sources, opening new mines in Crimea, mining stone and other fractions for buildings, also dragging sand for building from the shelf of the sea around Crimea, destroying unique ecology system, including unique ecology system of Kalkinita Bay. This is now destroyed by 4-year illegal excavating of sand from the sea ground. Those are the main issues in area of illegal usage of sources. And also we may say about pollution. As the industry of the northern Crimea, including chemical industry, that use still now illegally the sources of Ukrainian mainland, including salt water and fresh water by pipelines, they also pollute by chemical products. As territory of Crimea, so the territory of Sivash Bay and adjacent districts of Kherson region, including Chaplinka, when the cancer diseases grows now. And going back to water, I may regard that issue of the Northern Crimea Channel that is discussed actively in the Russian media is not the only and not the most ecological issue, as Northern Crimea Channel is artificial building built in Soviet period. It was the main goal to develop economy of Crimea, bringing water from Dnieper River to Crimea wasteland of Northern Crimea. So when now we closed this channel, artificial one, we can say we destroy ecology, as the ecology just replaced it back to the situation it was 60 years ago. But the other issue for Russians, they trying to develop economy in contrast of closed channel. They, as the occupying authorities, they have the full responsibility of all issues of economic, humanitarian, ecological issues in Crimea. They do know that Crimea have lack of water. They do know the channel is closed as they occupied Crimea, and we can't provide services and water to illegal authorities. And instead of this, they start to excavate water from the ground in industrial quantities, and it causes ecological problem.
Absolutely.
As they take out water of the regions of underground water base, it was strictly forbidden to do it in Ukrainian period. As scientists say, don't touch this water. This water is the safety of Crimean land. It keeps the land without salt. And you will drink this water, and salt water will come to its place, and all Crimea begins the Sahel Desert.
And this is what we're seeing now when we've got some of these satellite imagery that the Ukrainian ministries have put together, which show what Crimea looked like before the occupation. And then all we have now, we can see the deforestation, the lack of greenery that's going on. And I guess, yeah, we can see from all of these issues, this is pretty powerful that you're bringing up. It shows very much how Russia is exploiting Crimea simply for the economic gains, but also for the militarization.
Yes.
And there's because it's an occupied area, there's no consideration of the future ecological issues as well as the humanitarian issues. And let's talk about some of these that you specifically brought up, with the issue with exploiting the groundwater. And now we know that there's severe water crisis there. So what are you seeing as some of the longer-term issues that appear are not going to be reversed anytime in the near future?
Well, taking out groundwaters from Crimea, Russia must understand that this water will be over in the nearest future, and they must limit the economic activity in Crimea, as it is not the humanitarian issue, as it is still enough water to drink, but it is not enough water to have industry, industrial agriculture, including some cultures of traditional for Crimea, including rice, including other cultures that demand a lot of water. They had to stop it, as they don't understand the channel is closed. If they do not stop it and excavate illegally water from the land, they have the full responsibility for future disaster.
Well, could you see this leading to more aggression from Russia? There's been that fear of a possible Russia looking towards parts of mainland Ukraine, Kherson, and different areas when it comes to taking these resources.
Yes, they have a lot of, they made and will make a lot of attempts to get water from the northern Crimean Channel. And they try to do it via judicial proceedings, and they try to use some corruptional risks, but we do know this, and they will not open the channel. They still try to use some water from the some pipelines adjacent to the administrative boundary with Crimea. They have to use some local sources adjacent to Kherson region, but it is also temporal. And in any way, the channel will not be used for water in Crimea till the deoccupation. When Crimea will be deoccupied, the channel will be opened, and all illegal consequences of Russian policy in area of ecology will be sanated, and we have to now establish elements of strategy of the occupation of Crimea in ecologic area.
It's going to be very difficult. This will be very, very difficult because of the significant damage done. It would take decades to repair, to reverse.
We will need some decades, and it will include not only the water, but regarding to the trees and woods destroyed by Russians in Crimea. Now they destroy natural reserve parks in Crimea for illegal buildings, for own objects of military, and for Russian corrupt oligarchs and government. They destroy unique Crimean landscapes to make some buildings.
And we see destruction of UNESCO areas, protected, especially those Crimean Tatar history.
But not only. For example, during building of highway Tavrida, they destroyed more than 50 archaeological places. They have huge historical value, including historical monuments of Cimmerians, Greeks, Crimean Tatar, Goths and others, and all treasures digged out during these illegal archaeological researches were kept out of Crimea to the Russia.
I mean, it's 100% exploitation of this region with no looking at a future prosperity.
Yes, they rob the territory as they do know it's not Russia, and they have limited time, and they had to give it out of Russia control in some near future, and they understand it. So they have relations to these lands not as to own lands, but of lands to destroy and take out all the treasures of this territory.
And let's talk a bit about, because this is such a tragic issue, let's talk about the devastation and destruction done in the Black Sea, especially on the shelves. And we want to look a little at with the Kerch Bridge and the strait there. So can you tell us a bit about some of the ecological damage that's been done in the building of this bridge?
Well, this bridge was built, and the processes of usage special mechanisms with huge loud and vibration make a huge problem to Black Sea dolphins. 100 of dead dolphins were found near this building, and of course the fish had to change the routes of migration in the sea, and all other living inhabitants of Black Sea and others related to the moving of water via strait now have to change the ecosystem, as the movings of water changed after channel illegal building of dam between Tuzla Island and mainland of Russia. It is a part of bridge. And also we know that during this bridge and during building of Tavrida Highway, the illegal excavation of sand from the sea ground was done. It destroyed unique ecological system, including ecological system of Black Sea, like big and small phylophora field of Zernov. It's unique objects with unique ecological diversity on the shelf of Ukraine, and now they're in huge danger as after destruction of the sea bed, the process of renovation of these unique seascapes will be for hundreds of years, not even decades.
And I mean, it's obvious that few, if any, feasibility studies were done, and there are fears from many that this bridge is quite unstable in how it was built and on the seabed.
Well, this region is risky for such huge buildings, as Kerch Lane have a huge dangerous in area of earthquakes and mud volcanoes that are on the ground of the Kerch Strait, on the Kerch Peninsula. So they have some risk. I will not make prognosis how long this bridge will stay, a year, a 10-year or 15 years. But anyway, the risks of this bridge are connected not only of its safety, but also of its influence to the environment, and this influence is already negative.
And so what are we seeing, the effect on mainland Ukraine and on the fishing industry? What effects have been seen so far, just in general?
Well, as Russian illegal authorities in Crimea use illegally Ukrainian quotas for Azov Sea, we need to revise the policy of changing quotas between Russia and Ukraine that was done in compliance of agreement between parties of 1993. And this agreement in area of fishing in Azov is still in force, and we need to re-evaluate it, as we see the illegal attempts of Russian Federation to make industrial fishing by illegal industries of Crimea, enterprises of resided illegally in Crimea. Also, we have facts of illegal piracy in Black and Azov seas when Russian so-called border guard vessels takeoff by the force Ukrainian peaceful fishermen with their vessels, rob them, discriminate them, and even make attempts to make them hostages. As you know, the crew of vessel 0041 from Achakiv town was captured by Russians in May of 2018, and they still as hostages in Sevastopol, and Russian demands a lot to release them, but they have no any official statute in Crimea, even in so-called occupational legislation. So just they're only prisoners of Russian occupying authorities. And this is just example as Russia make illegal influence on all Ukrainian fishermen, and this is attempt to destroy the right of peaceful development, their right on labor, and their other economic rights, and of course it must be a field of special attention of all international entities and structures.
And so one last question for you. We know that Ukraine is putting together some cases and suits against Russia, specifically regarding Crimea. Can you tell us a little bit about this and what some of the next steps are?
Well, regarding to international proceedings, we may point the arbitration ad hoc regarding to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea that will be held in Hague. Also, the proceeding in the International Criminal Court regarding to military crimes of Russia in Crimea may be started in near future, also in Hague. Also in Hague is on proceedings the case of International Court of Justice regarding to racial discrimination to Crimean Tatars and ethnic Ukrainians. And also we have some proceedings in the European Court of Human Rights, as minimum 3 of them, made by Ukraine as states against Russia, are related to Crimean issues. So we have some interstate claims. Also we have some claims on the level of bilateral communication of enterprises and claims of physical persons against Russia and claims of judicial structures against Russia regarding commercial arbitrary proceedings.
Well, thank you so much for telling us more about these issues that are going on, and we're certainly going to stay abreast and hopefully have you back on to give us an update. Thank you so much for being with us. And this was Borys Babin. He's the permanent representative of the President of Ukraine to Crimea. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more.